Some people in the comments wanted us to talk about Star Wars.
Oh! Well, that's a coincidence.
Yeah, good thing you're wearing a Star Wars shirt and drinking from a Star Wars mug.
Let's go to Topic Town.
Let's go.
This is actually a coincidence, because I didn't know what we were going to talk about when you came over today, and I put this shirt on and used this mug. It's a coincidence in a sense. In another sense, I'm always all about Star Wars. So,
yeah, what is it about Star Wars? Why do people like Star Wars?
What is it about my farmer tan? Anyway.
Gonna have to go to the tanning booth.
Yeah. On Tatooine. Mm-hmm. Well, that would just be outside in Tatooine.
Yeah, there's two suns, though. You'd be able to get a real tan.
Yeah, a real good tan. So, anyway. Star Wars. What is it about Star Wars, Matt?
It's such a good movie.
Well,
so good.
Good 3 movies.
Good 3 movies, yeah. That's the one thing, is that we are of the opinion that the original trilogy is best, and it's best when it's not the special edition. Mm-hmm. And it's best when they're not prequels to the original.
I agree. The original, though the special edition doesn't bother me too much. Like the Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, that one I think it was okay.
The additions to that one were okay. Didn't like that.
Mainly because it was pretty minimal.
We're about to get real geeky on Star Wars here. If you've never seen or don't care about Star Wars, get ready to tune out. The first one, I didn't like the addition of a Jabba the Hutt in the first one. That was not good. The weird
animal abuse that happened in the Mos Eisley spaceport.
No, that was because of the animal abuse.
Yeah.
But it's an alien abuse though. So
they're animals.
Aliens don't have feelings.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
As far as I know. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I grew up with the first 3. I mean, actually, the first 2 were the first one came out before I was born. The second one came out the year I was born. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they were popular when I was like 7. The world was already all about Star Wars before I even came into it.
Yeah. You don't know of a world before Star Wars.
I don't. So, to me, Star Wars is everything.
Yeah, it is the world.
It is. The first 3.
Yeah.
So what do we want to talk about? This is a very vague topic.
I think what we should talk about is we really like the original trilogy. We grew up with the original trilogy. Mm-hmm. Is it just because we were kids and it was there that we have this attachment to the original trilogy over the prequel trilogy? Is it like because we were adults when the prequel trilogy came out?
Also, is Star Wars even that good, or is it just because we watched it when we were kids?
Yeah, we are just skewed, brainwashed.
I like to think I'm pretty film literate. I went to school for it, and I think about film all the time. I think about what makes a good movie, what doesn't make a good movie, and I like to think I can think about this objectively. And I do talk to people who like Star Wars, who've seen it later in life, who are just like, yeah, it's pretty good, but they don't have the strong love for it that we did. But I think that's going to be the case for any movie. Yeah. But I still think you can objectively say that it's well done. It's the first 3 are well done movies. I think they're good stories. They're just good. They're not, the stories themselves are not purely original. Like any story, no story is original. Yeah. It's just a well done fable.
Yeah, and it's pretty simple. It's a simple story about a boy who goes on a journey and gains these powers and saves the day. Mm-hmm. But it's also it has a lot of. It's hinted at a lot of layers. Like there's the Force and stuff like that, and it seems really epic. But it's a very simple story that has this dressing of epicness over it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what makes it work. Because the world seems so huge. The universe seems huge in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And because you only get to see part of it, really.
And why the new trilogy is no good, I think. There's many reasons. There's many reasons why the new trilogy is not good. But here's one of the big ones for me, is that it's about big people in power and this big mythological large story of Jedi and Yoda and the Emperor and all that, and how they move about their world, I guess. And I don't care. I don't really care about the big story. I want to see what the Luke Skywalkers or the Han Solos of the world of the universe are doing.
That is, I think, one of the main issues with the prequel trilogy is the perspective of it is from the guys in charge, the people in the know. Mm-hmm. So that I think makes what you see in the universe, because these people should be so in the know and know what's going on, it makes the universe seem smaller, because you're seeing basically everything that can be seen. But when you're following like Luke Skywalker, he doesn't know anything. So when the stuff you see, you're relating with his perspective, so you're not seeing everything. You're assuming there's like this larger stuff that's going on that Luke doesn't know about. It's
like taking the movie Forrest Gump and taking what happens in Forrest Gump, but from the perspective of Richard Nixon instead.
The generals in Vietnam or something.
Generals in Vietnam. And it's like, well, it's too big. There's too many characters. I don't care. That's one of the main things about it that's not good. There's also the entire thing was shot in front of green screen or blue screen, and you can tell that they're just all standing around in a studio and walking slowly from one place to another and just blah 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 saying words, and it's just boring. It's not very dynamic.
The original, some people, I think, I remember people worrying that like kids today are going to think the first Star Wars, A New Hope, is too slow moving. I don't think that's true. It is slow.
The first like half hour, I guess, is pretty slow.
It is, but I like how it sort of ramps up. It really, I don't think kids will get bored of Star Wars. I didn't get bored of it.
No, when I was a little kid, I liked it, and kids today have similar human brains as the human brain that I have.
Yeah, and that's what A New Hope is so good, because it is like it starts off on such a limited perspective of Luke Skywalker. And it's just him moving through the universe, like sort of almost like a video game. Like each level he's seen a little bit more, and then it becomes this huge thing where he's out in space and he's fighting a huge planet-sized space station.
It's got a flow. It's got a story arc, and sometimes some of my favorite action movies start out slow, like Die Hard, for instance. First 20 minutes, no action. I heard a story. I think it was probably on like a behind the scenes or making of Die Hard. Someone saw it in the theater, and a guy stood up like 20 minutes in, and he's like, "No action!" and he walked out. he walked out of the theater. Why do you need the action right away? The movie's so good because you get to know the characters for a while before all the crap goes down. You know?
Yeah. It's like Star Wars. It sets up the board. And it takes a while to set up the board.
And it sets it up from the perspective of the little people, the people you can relate to.
Yeah. So, I think we can agree the best Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's the best one because it takes what the first one did and basically launches it to a different level. It's like all about the characters in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
They're on the run the entire time, basically. And so it's basically the entire middle act of the first trilogy is just like this character piece about all of them and like how they deal with basically everything falling apart around them. And that's what's interesting, because like the first Star Wars is like this very fun, happy ending, like almost typical like sci-fi, mythological story. And the second one basically reverses all that. It deconstructs the first one and makes it about the heroes losing.
Right. There's spoiler, but also it also feels more like it's more of a space adventure than any of the other ones, because first one's like you're on a planet, you go to a space station, boom, done. Second one's like they're on an ice planet. Then Luke goes to a swamp planet. They go to an asteroid. They go to a sky planet, and then there's the stuff going on in the Star Destroyer the whole time. It's quite an adventure.
Yeah,
quite an adventure.
Yeah, it's very big
but yet still from the perspective of the little people.
Yeah,
well, sort of. Luke is becoming more of a bigger person at that point.
But they still don't really know. Yeah. Their perspective is very limited. Even though they're going through this huge universe, and you get to see some of it.
Yeah. To compare to another movie, if you've seen the movie Dread, for instance, I really like that movie because it is a superhero guy, sort of. He's a bigger, larger than life cop guy, but the story itself, just one contained little story. It's not about the giant mythology of the entire planet. It's just one little story of how he deals with this drug lord, And I like that. And then they're going to do a prequel that's more about how the origin of him. And it probably won't be as good, but it could be. I don't know. If you're going to write an epic saga, remember the little people. Mm-hmm. Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. The Hobbit are like the main beings in the thing. It seems like they're got the most focus.
Yeah.
Frodo's the main character. It seems like. I mean, there's a lot going on around him, but it's from the perspective of the little people.
Yeah,
literally.
Literally.
Literally the little people. And I think you need that to ground this large mythology or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And I also think the original trilogy lucked out on having Harrison Ford in it, who basically he is Han Solo. Han Solo is Harrison Ford.
We all lucked out to have Harrison Ford in our lives, I think.
In some ways, I think he carries a lot of the movie because his depiction of that character is so good. Mm-hmm. He's just he's a lovable scoundrel.
Lovable scoundrel. That's what I want to be.
Luke is fine, but he's pretty kind of one dimensional. I mean, he gets better, I think, toward the end. Mm-hmm. When he starts.
But he's all like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a Jedi."
Yeah, in some way, in looking back on it, he's a little annoying.
Well, in the first one.
But I like that he's sort of annoying because he's a kid. He's supposed to be annoying.
But I mean, but he's relatable too.
Yeah,
just a different kind of relatable. Mm-hmm. Whereas, who can I relate to in the prequels?
I don't know. Maybe that four-armed...
That flying blue alien thing on before the pod race. I can remember that fat.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Whatever his name is.
The junk salesman.
That's who I relate to in the first one. He's the most down to earth, normal character on all of the prequels, and he's not even on Earth. He's flying, or planet, not Earth.
I mean, if we're gonna pick somebody in the prequel trilogy, I think Obi-Wan is probably the closest you get to being a relatable character.
He is, I guess, the closest, but he's a super Jedi.
He is a super Jedi, but in the first one, he's only a Padawan, so he's sort of learning.
And who doesn't relate to Padawans?
Yeah, I wish the prequel trilogy was more just about Obi-Wan. Like, he was the main character, and it was about his sort of his arc of like being a Padawan and becoming a super Jedi, but he sort of fails at it, because he isn't able to teach his student. He fails at being a teacher.
We could talk about Star Wars for hours.
Yeah,
we're nerds. Star Wars nerds.
Well, so do we have time? Can we just like
Corey Vidal? I know you're watching this episode. What do you think in the comments about Star Wars? I know what you think about Star Wars.
Oh, let's there's going to be a new trilogy coming out. What do you think? Think it's going to be good? I have high hopes.
I do. Hopes? I actually do have high hopes for it. I think it's going to be good. Directed by J.J. Abrams. He's a fan of Star Wars. He's already looks like he's doing a lot of practical effects with the way in the spirit of the original trilogy.
Yeah, it looks like they constructed the entire Millennium Falcon,
which is super cool to me. I have pretty high hopes that it's going to be good. And then the next two are directed by Rian Johnson.
Oh yeah,
who did Looper and
is he doing the next two?
Yeah, the next two I think, writing and directing. He did Looper and he did Brick and Brothers Bloom. I think he'll do a good job as well. Did you mention he was also directing? I will tell you. I would bet you. He directed some Breaking Bad. Yeah. I will tell you, I would bet thousands of dollars that the new it's subjective, so you can't really bet. The new trilogy is better than the prequels for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely a safe bet. I think.
I doubt it'll be, and I doubt it'll be better than the original trilogy, but it might come close.
Yeah, I have hopes. I think J.J. Abrams is good. He is able. He did good with Star Trek. I really like the new Star Trek.
I did too. There are some people who don't like diehard Star Trek fans, not diehard fans, diehard Star Trek fans. Some don't like the.
Yeah, I really liked the first Star Trek one. Star Trek Into Darkness was okay. It wasn't bad.
I liked it.
Yeah, it was. It was serviceable. It wasn't bad, and I think it did.
I think he's a bigger Star Wars fan than he is a Star Trek fan. Though.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We should go. I knew this episode would be long because we can talk about Star Wars for a while. But you better play a song.
There we go.
Go back. Oh, Luke, Han, Leia, and Obi-Wan. losing it. I never had it. Star Wars.
We like Star Wars.
We're terrible. Bye.